This video is to go over problem number 3 on page 20. It says solve the equation for all x where x is somewhere between 0 and 2 pi, but 2 pi is excluded. Equation is 10 times sine square of x minus sine of x equals 4. So by convention, sine square of x means sine of x squared. So we can rewrite the problem by 10 times sine of x squared minus 3 sine of x equals 4. So just like the other videos, we're going to hide this sine of x for now. So we take that equation. We're going to hide this with either smiley mark or maybe we can use H. So we can hide this with hands. H stands for hands. Now we know how to solve this. This is algebra 1 / algebra 2 problems. So first of all, I want to subtract 4 from both sides. That way we have everything and the right side will be 0. Now, some technique we have learned in Algebra 1, we can multiply everything by 10. So let me multiply everything by 10. So I'm going to multiply this by 10. I'm going to multiply this by 10. I'm going to multiply this by 10. So this will be, right here, this will be 10 squared. And this part will be 3 times 10. And this will be 40. And I didn't really do it out right there for reasons. And I'll show you why in a minute. So we can take this one. Oops. And we know this 10 squared times h squares we can rewrite as 10h squared. And here, 10 times h right here, we can say that's 10h minus 40. Now, we know this 10h and this 10h are the same, so let's just replace with something. So let's just replace with maybe capital X, Mr. X. Let's replace with it. You see, we are simplifying the hard problem in a simpler way. And we know how to factor this one. You look for two numbers that add to -3 and multiply to -40, which is -8 and 5. That's how we do factoring, right? But now we know this x is actually 10h because we replace with it. And here we can use distributive property backwards by dividing this by 2. So 10 divided by 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 times 4 is 8. So it's kind of like this, doing distributive property backwards. And I can do the same thing over here. So I put 5 here, 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times 1 is 5. So if you do this out right here, this part, 5 times the quantity of 2h plus 1 equals 10h plus 5. So I wrote this 10h plus 5 in different form, which is 5 times 2h plus 1. The reason is that way we can multiply this 2 and 5 to get 10. And I want to divide this by 10 because I multiply everything by 10 right here, right? That means I got to divide it by 10 to undo it. So I'm going to divide this by 10, and I'm going to divide this by 10, which is trivial. This is 0, and this is 1. So by zero product property, 5h minus 4 equals 0, or 2h minus 1 has to be equal to 0. Whatever this thing has to be 0, whatever this number has to be 0, because we have two numbers right here. This times this has to be 0. That means either one of them has to be 0. So if we solve this, 5h minus 4 equals 0. Let's add 4 to both sides. And this will be 0. This will be 4. Let's divide this by 5. Let's divide this by 5. So this is 1. So h equals 4/5. Or we're going to do this one too, which is add 1 to both sides. So this will be 1. This will be 0. Divided by 2. And divide this by 2. So this will be, right? Now, at the beginning, we hide h. We hide sign of x with h. So if you peel off the sticker, that really is sign of x, right? Okay. So sign of x has to be equal to 4/5 or 1/2. So let's lay it out. So sign of x has to be 4/5. So this is the unit circle. Let's graph. You see sign of x, which is just a rise in the unit circle. So the rise, in other words, the y-coordinate is 4/5. So I'm just going to put g of x equals 4/5, which is over there. And then we have sign of x equals, oh, wait a minute, I did something wrong. This has to be plus, right? This is plus, right? This should be negative, huh? And then, so I'm going to graph, just erase that one. Let me graph 4/5, and we have negative halves, which is there. So if you look at it, we have 4 solutions, right? So 4/5 and -1. So -1/2. So if you draw, so let's do this one first, right? So if you drop it perpendicular line, now you could draw you can draw a triangle, which is half of equilateral triangle. How do I know that? Because I know this because radius is 1 and height is 1. Okay, so this is -1. So that means what? We have 180 degrees and also we have 30 degrees. So we have for this guy, we have 180 degrees plus 30 degrees, which equals pi plus pi 6, and this really is 6 pi over 6. I just changed it so that I can add it, right? So that gives us 7 pi over 6. And the other one, if you look at this one, is 270 degrees. Let me actually draw it, right? So this is kind of like transforming this one over that, right? So this point right there is really 360 degrees minus 30 degrees. So that's 360 degrees minus 30 degrees, which equals 2 pi minus pi 6. This really is 8 pi over 4. Oh, that is 2 pi, but we don't have common denominator, so we should put 12 pi over 6. That should really is 11 pi over 6. So those are the two answers, but we have more answers right there. So we really have to find that one. Well, if you realize that 4/5 right there, so if we, let's erase these two, let's drop this from here to here, construct the perpendicular lines, and we have the triangles. Now, what we can do is, if I don't know what the degree is, if this is 60 degrees or 30 degrees or 45 degrees, I know how to do it because it's the special triangle and I know everything. But I know everything about that. But if it's not, if the angle is not very clear, we have to use calculators. So let's look at this. We have sine of, so we have sine of x equals 4/5. Let me do that over here, right? We have to undo sines, right? So we have to multiply this by this guy by inverse of sine. Of course, so that these two undo it, right? Of course, you have to do that on the other side. But this part really is sine inverse of sine, and a sine cancels out. So it's just going to be x. So x equals sine inverse of sine 4/5. So let's find out what the inverse of sine. So we go trig this 4/5. Make sure to put the decimal points so that you get the decimal answer. So it's 0.927 whatever. So it's about 0 points. So this is about approximately 0.93. So if you think about this graph, from here to here, from arc length, right, from here to here is 0.93. And from here to here, right, is what, right? So it's just like this guy reflect over y-axis. See, right here is from here to here, from here to here, pi to that point, it's 0.93. But we know that from half a pi is, half a circle is pi. So for the other points is pi minus 0.93 about, which is approximately 3.14 minus 0.93, which is 3.14 minus 0.93 is 2.21. So those are the answers, 2.21. So let's look at the other graph. Radian from here to here, or the arc length from here to here is 0.93. Arc length from here to here is 2.21. And if arc length or radians from here to here, the third point is 7 pi over 6, which is 7 times 3.14 divided by 6, and you get whatever. And the fourth point, you get 11 pi over 4. So if you go around from here to here, it's 11 pi over 6, and that's the solution.